Hey everyone, I wanted to share a really interesting article I recently came across in reproductive health. It looks at women's interest in self care for sexual and reproductive health, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I thought this was super relevant and timely, so I figured I'd bring it to you all. So, what is this study about? Basically, it explores how women in South Africa and Zambia feel about managing aspects of their reproductive health on their own. So, basically, things like using at home pregnancy tests, receiving supplies remotely, or even removing contraceptive devices like IUDs by themselves. The researchers use a mixed method approach, which means they combined both surveys and interviews. So, for the survey part, they reached out to women who had previously participated in a contraceptive study called the ECHO trial. These were women using methods like injectable contraceptives, implants, or copper IUDs. And during the pandemic, they reconnected with nearly 390 women in South Africa and 234 in Zambia. They also did in-depth interviews with some of these women, as well as key informants like healthcare providers, advocates, and community leaders involved in reproductive health. So, what did they find? Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Not many women had actually used self care methods before, but there was a strong interest in learning about them or trying them out, especially during a time when clinics were harder to access. On the provider side, opinions were more mixed. COVID-19 definitely sparked more conversations around self care, but there was still some hesitancy, particularly around things like self removal of IUDs. One big reason for that is IUD use is already pretty low in these settings, roughly 2%. So both women and providers don't have a ton of experience with them. Also, fewer trained providers means there's not a lot of support or guidance available to women to do things like safely remove their own IUDs. So that said, some providers did say that in emergency situations like a lockdown, it might make sense to teach women how to remove their IUDs themselves. And it turns out that getting IUDs removed is often a major barrier because, like in Senegal, for example, over half of the users said that they had trouble accessing removal services because of things like long wait times, transport issues, or unavailable providers. So, what's the takeaway? I believe this study does a great job in highlighting that there's untapped demand for reproductive self care, but making it work long time will depend on whether providers and health systems are on board. It can't just be a quick fix during a crisis, it needs to be something that's sustainable and supported. Why did I choose this article? Uh, personally, personally, I'm interested in health autonomy and innovation, especially in situations where access to care is disrupted, like during COVID or in rural areas. And I love how this study does a great job in centering women's voices and shows how self care might help support with both access and autonomy. Plus, this is one of the first studies to really look at these issues in sub Saharan Africa, which makes it feel fresh and impactful. So that's the gist. It's a thoughtful look at how women and providers in South Africa and Zambia are thinking about self care in reproductive health, especially when clinic access gets tough. And there's a clear interest from women, but we'll need more provider support and more research to really move the needle. Thank you for listening. I'd love to hear what you all think.